Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. This is a recent reads video in which I take stock of the last several books that I have completed. So I take chronologically books in the order that I have finished them, generally speaking, and I try to do it after 3 books, if not 4, so as to not let the video drag on. I think I've fallen a little bit behind, and so this is going to be somewhat perfunctory, also because these books have mostly been delved into at length, and some would say ad nauseum, in separate videos of their own, which I will put links to in the description box below. Now, all of my recent reads videos since I have been a booktuber are part of a playlist, so you can go to the playlist and you will get an accounting of every book that I have read during this time. So this is going to be my penultimate recent reads video for the year 2024, and I hope to do the next one fairly soon. I am going to talk about 4 books. You can see I'm showing you 5. That is because I will talk about the 3 here at the top, but the beginnings of Chinese civilization, which I finished after Minor Detail, I think will be best considered with my final group of books for the year-end recent reads video. So just so that you know, I enjoyed this book. So here we go. The Shaking Woman, or A History of My Nerves by Siri Hustvedt. And I enjoyed this book, but it was not altogether to my liking. I'll just read a little bit from the front flap for you. While speaking at a memorial event for her father in 2006, Siri Hustvedt suffered a violent seizure from the neck down. Despite her flapping arms and shaking legs, she continued to speak clearly and was able to finish her speech. It was as if she had suddenly become 2 people, a calm orator and a shuddering wreck. Then the seizures happened again and again. The Shaking Woman tracks Hustvedt's search for a diagnosis, one that takes her inside the thought processes of several scientific disciplines, each one of which offers a distinct perspective on her paroxysms, but no ready solution. In the process, she finds herself entangled in fundamental questions. What is the relationship between brain and mind? How do we remember? What is the self? So that's a pretty good description. What it does not say is that for a book that's almost 200 pages, there's no chapter breaks. There's no sort of organizational principle behind the book. So it's just a random narrative of notes which I believe the author took during the course of her trying to figure out her illness, which, spoiler alert, she never does. I would not expect her to. But I'm accustomed to the sort of case study literature done by Oliver Sacks, who is a bit of an inspiration to this book, where at least there is some kind of resolution in the story. The client may not have everything resolved 100%, but some kind of ad hoc or makeshift resolution will be made to help the client be able to go on with his or her life more amenably. So I remember in one case, a man who had absolutely no sense of balance. Oliver Sacks had a pair of glasses developed for the man with a level inside of it, so that while he could not balance himself innately, he would be able to look at the level inside his glasses frame and be able to walk steadily and stand, that kind of thing. So at least an Oliver Sacks story would give you some kind of roundup and some kind of closure. This book never did that, but the author is amenable. She's likable enough to use. What wasn't that what Barack Obama said about Hillary Clinton? And I think it's, if you have ever experienced anything of this sort, it might be worth reading this to have a kindred spirit talking about her experience. She is also a novelist and a writer of literary criticism. And so while I was not enamored of this book, I really do hope to pick up some of her critical essays at some time and delve into them a little bit more. I would like to see her with a bit tighter of a focus in her writing. So next I read Mark Twain. Whoops, this is the wrong book. It was not. Oh yeah, this is the right book. Oh, you see, it's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I thought Huckleberry Finn was just Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, whereas Tom Sawyer was called The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Whatever, you know the book I'm talking about. And I unintentionally have about 5 or 6, at least it feels like that, videos about this book, which I followed at, not immediately, but pretty soon after, with this book, Was Huck Black by Shelley Fishkin. So I am really glad that I read these two books sort of in tandem, because I was not smitten at all with The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And Fishkin's book really helped me place the novel in context, in its American context, and helped me to understand why it has been such an important book for so many American writers and why it has meant so much to a lot of people. So I will say no more. As I say, I will refer you to those other videos. And I read another novel, Minor Detail, by Adania Shibli. And it's a very short piece, less than 100 pages. And well, I'll read you the back cover. This spare and haunting novel cuts to the heart of the experience of erasure, dispossession, and life under occupation in Palestine, and reveals the difficulty of piecing together the shards of a narrative concealed by a fragmented history. Minor Detail begins during the summer of 1949, 1 year after the war that the Palestinians mourn as the Nakba, the catastrophe that led to the displacement and expulsion of some 700,000 people. Israeli soldiers attack a group of Bedouins in the Negev desert, killing everyone except a teenage girl. They capture the girl and later rape her, kill her, and bury her in the sand. Many years later, in the near present day, a woman in Ramallah tries to uncover some of the details surrounding this particular rape and murder and becomes fascinated to the point of obsession, not only because of the nature of the crime, but because it was committed exactly 25 years to the day before she was born. Adania Shibli masterfully overlays these two translucent narratives to evoke a present forever haunted by a past. And then, just for the heck of it, let me give you a blurb by J.M. Coetzee, which is kind of really wrong. Adania Shibli takes a gamble in entrusting our access to the key event in her novel, the rape and murder of a young Bedouin woman, to two profoundly self-absorbed narrators, an Israeli psychopath and a Palestinian amateur sleuth high on the autism scale. But her method of indirection justifies itself fully as the book reaches its heart-stopping conclusion. That is such a strange characterization of the novel. Number one, there is no narrator that is an Israeli psychopath. Does not happen in this book. And I don't know if Coetzee just wanted to see his name on the back cover of a book. You wonder if he actually read the thing. And I admire his book Disgrace, the only one of his novels which I have read, very much so. It's a masterpiece of touching, difficult themes. And then also saying he says the other narrator is an amateur sleuth high on the autism scale. That's sort of a misrepresentation too. So the book is divided into two parts, almost equal. And the first part recounts part of the setting up camp of these Israeli soldiers in question and recounts their daily life. And it centers specifically on one officer in the unit. The back cover has told you what transpires, more or less. You follow this officer in detail, but it's entirely third-person narrative. Then the second half, the first-person narrator comes in, and it is a person who finds out about this event and wants to learn more and takes some steps towards finding out more. And so we follow this narrator through the difficulties of actually trying to recover some of this past. The novel is nothing more than that. And so the minute details of each of these characters, the protagonist, I guess, in one and the narrator in the other, are followed pretty closely, pretty minutely. And other characters pop in. There is a little bit of interaction here and there, but mostly you are very tightly focused on each of these individuals. And I have to say that I do not mind that kind of thing at all when it's done well. In this case, I think it's done magnificently. It really gave me a window into the situation in Palestine that I never had. So it helps me to understand a lot better what the history of the region is. And so that was one thing that I liked very much about it. I don't think that the narrator of the second half is anything so wacky as J.M. Coetzee makes them out to be. But I found the voice compelling, and the ending was a little bit the kind of thing you've seen done before. It's not exactly a surprise ending, but it was all handled very astutely and very masterfully. I think I said that word before. So this of this handful of books, here I'm going to ruin the order here. Of this handful of books, minor detail is definitely the winner. Except for Was Huck Black, these all have a bit of a fictional feeling to them. The question about how do we remember things? Well, memory is a form of fiction. And as far as Was Huck Black, the question really was, to what extent was the language of Mark Twain influenced by the Black community with whom Twain associated? The answer is very much so. The answer is that the language that Mark Twain used, or let me be fancy here and say the idiom, was something even of an amalgam of both the English as spoken by the white European descendants and that spoken by the Black slave descendants in most cases. So that is the long and short of it. As I say, this book itself, I don't think merits a read on its own unless you want to do some critical follow-up. I would imagine there exists a Norton critical edition that would be worth looking at. Fishkin fails in addressing the actual question, was Huck Black? As I say, it comes down to a question of the language that Twain was using, and she does not explore the character of Huck, who accompanied Tom Sawyer in his further adventures, Tom Sawyer Abroad and Tom Sawyer Detective, I think they were. I've never read those. Well, I may have read Boy Detective. Was it Boy Detective? When I was a boy. But I think it was a dumbed down children's version. I have no recollection of it, but Fishkin ignores that aspect of the character of Huck. So the title question does not get answered. It was a bit of clickbait. So for this book, you will have to wait for my next and final recent reads video, which should be coming very soon with only 2 days left in the year. We'll see how much I can get through before then. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel.